When I was 22 years old, fresh out of college, I became a high school English teacher in Boynton Beach, Florida. I'm not gonna lie to you, at times this was a really terrifying job. But something I was even more afraid of than the job itself was having to talk to parents. How do I make that stop?
Right there.
Okay.
Never move.
Okay. So something I was even more afraid of than the job itself was having to talk to parents. It just really scared me. But most of my students came from low-income neighborhoods, so it turns out I didn't have to talk to parents nearly as much as I thought. And at the time, I took this as a gift. I was glad for it. And it wasn't until later, when I started investigating the reasons behind this lack of parent involvement, that I could see the bigger picture. Hi, my name is Lauren Costantino, and the community I've been working with is parents in Red Hook who have been excluded from the school integration conversation in District 15. It took me a while to find this community. Last fall, I sent out a survey called Issues in Education to find out what questions people had and what issues people cared about in their public education system. After that, my colleague Erica and I put on an event called a Story Circle to bring community members together to share stories and experiences around the topic of race in the classroom. And after that, I started showing up to local education meetings in District 15 to find out how parents were reacting to a newly enacted diversity plan in the district. At one of these meetings in Carroll Gardens, I noticed a problem. I noticed that there were only a handful of Red Hook parents in the room. And I know this because when the superintendent asked how many people are here from Red Hook, less than 10 people raised their hand in a packed school auditorium. I should also point out that Red Hook has the highest proportion of Black residents in District 15. Right now, the conversation in District 15 centers around school integration plans. And in order for you to understand the importance of school integration plans in 2019, you should know that the schools in District 15 are among the most socioeconomically and racially segregated schools in all of New York City. And you should also know that New York City has the most segregated school system in the country. Think about that. The most segregated school system in one of the most diverse cities, a city with over 8 million people who speak over 800 languages. And segregation shows up in a lot of ways. For example, you may have seen this story from the New York Times from earlier this year. It highlights the fact that 70% of the city's students are Black and Hispanic, yet they make up only 10% of students who are admitted into the city's specialized high schools. These are the high schools that are the most prestigious and have the best resources. And this is just a glimpse of what segregation looks like in New York City. So back to District 15. So the goal of the meeting that I was going to was to get the Department of Education in the same room with parents to talk about a rezoning plan. And the plan was aiming to make schools more equitable in the district for all students. So at these meetings, the people who were attending were mostly white affluent families who make up only 29% of the student population in District 15. So that signaled a problem to me. And I checked with the community to learn more. And this is a quote from a parent I met, and it summarizes the problem really well, so I'm going to read it to you. In Red Hook, parents don't know what's going on. A lot of that is because the DOE's framework for engagement is sending a flyer home and sending an email. When you're a parent trying to make ends meet, that flyer may get lost in the shuffle, and you may not have time to follow up on an email, and you may not even have an email address. Things like that are just real challenges in this community. So what I decided to do was make a website called Red Connect, which is an all-in-one platform where parents in Red Hook could go to get their information about changes in their district and things that were going on in school integration plans. So I made a website, so I fixed the problem, right? I did it. No, not even a little bit. While I was compiling all this information to make this website, I overlooked a really important factor, and that was getting people to go use this website was nearly impossible because most parents in Red Hook didn't know who I was, and they had no trust in the work that I was doing. So while I was trying to figure this out, I met Edwin Pacheco. He is a community organizer and a pastor in Red Hook and a local activist. And he shows up to every single local education meeting in District 15. And he does this so that he can be an information liaison for people in the community, so that he can go there, get the most pertinent information, and bring it back to people in Red Hook and tell them at bus stops, over FaceTime, at NYCHA meetings. And he knows how to rally people around a cause. After that meeting in Carroll Gardens, the one I mentioned before with only 10 Red Hook residents, Edwin organized his own meeting, and he got over 75 people from Red Hook to show up. Around the topic of parent engagement, Edwin told me something really powerful recently. He told me that a lot of parents in Red Hook don't feel equipped or adequate to sit at the table. And he's telling them, sit at the table anyway, and I'll sit next to you. Meaning, if you don't feel comfortable to show up in person and talk about these issues with the DOE, come anyway, and I'll be there to help you understand. Helping people understand complex issues is one of journalists' main jobs. But if the people that need this information most are not getting it, then we failed, and we need a new approach. So I got a new approach. Okay, so after talking with Edwin and realizing that there was people in this community that were already engaging parents and doing a really good job of it, I started working with them. And one thing I did was start a Facebook group called Red Connect, and to get parents talking about education issues in District 15. And I'm already learning a lot. For example, Karen, who gave me permission to use this comment, told me, or pointed out something really interesting, which is that the DOE can't be all to blame for this lack of parent engagement. And she said that we need to educate community members on why showing up to meetings is important. I thought that was a really good point. We have over 20 members, and Edwin is an admin, so we're doing it together. Another thing I decided to do was start live streaming meetings so that people who couldn't show up in person could have another way to access them. And Chalkbeat, a leading education news site, liked this idea and decided to share it out and write up a little article about me and the project that I was working on. And Chalkbeat. And another way to share out the link. Oh God, I shouldn't have said that. Another way I decided to share out the live stream link was to leverage one of their community information bulletin boards and online platform of sharing information called Red Hook Hub. And for my first live stream, one was not very great audio, I may add. I got over 82 views, and the article that I wrote summarizing the takeaways from this meeting got over 22 views, which is pretty good engagement compared to the 10 parents who showed up in the original meeting. But perhaps a better metric of engagement for me was seeing that parents on Facebook were sharing out this link on their own to other parents who needed it. Another project I'm working on with a parent coordinator in Red Hook is called Heroes of PS 676, and this is a collection of portraits and stories that highlight the transformation of this once failing elementary school to now a school that parents actually want to bring their kids to. And this project is born out of deep listening, and it serves a much more nuanced It serves a much more nuanced need in the community, which is to destigmatize the public schools in Red Hook. It's in its early stages, but it's going to be shared on and offline, and I've already gotten some good feedback from the principal, who says that she wants to continue the project after I'm done, and she's going to do this by informing or teaching her 4th and 5th graders how to interview and take portraits. So more to come about that. So I want to leave you with a few thoughts about what journalists can learn from my social journalism process. And one really important takeaway for me was that build it and they will come is a myth. And to overcome this, what we need to do is develop strong relationships with people in the community and understand how their news ecosystem works. And I just want to say, when decades of mistrust have eroded relationships between marginalized populations and governmental systems like the DOE, you can't mistake silence for apathy or lack of interest in being involved. And on that note, building trust takes a lot of time and energy and work, and sometimes that means leaving the recorder at home. A lot of times I did that when I was out in Red Hook. And lastly, it's not enough just to write about solutions anymore. We need to actually work with the community and leverage them. I can tell you from my experience as a teacher that it's the loudest parents in the room that get things done. And frankly, this isn't fair to those parents who are working 2 jobs to put food on the table, for those parents who have mobility issues, for those parents who have a lack of trust, to be excluded from conversations. Because if we're not inviting everyone to the table when talking about equity, solutions around equity, then we can never move forward from the segregation that haunts our past. Thank you.